Hi, and thanks for joining me today on Geezes of Gear episode number 224. This podcast is sponsored by ACT Entertainment. Ayrton's latest fixture, Rivali, is also the first in its new Ultimate Series. An IP65 rated LED source profile, Rivali puts power and precision in a smaller, lighter frame that is also easier to use than ever before. With 30,000 lumens at 6,500 Kelvin and tuned for optimal light neutrality, Rivali's myriad features become irreplaceable in your rig, offering exquisite key light, subtle color fill, and perspective tilting effects from a single position. Rivali is setting a new standard, and you have to reach out to your ACT rep to see it. Visit actentertainment.com. And today's podcast is also brought to you by GearSource. Founded in 2002 with a mission to help global live event businesses move gear around the planet. Since that time, the company has transacted in more than 100 countries, selling almost $250 million in sound, lighting, staging, and video gear. In 2023, GearSource evolved its platform for massive global growth, enabling true multi-currency cross-border selling with payments held in global escrow accounts set up to protect buyers and sellers. Plus, AI-powered logistics behind its new global logistics brand, GearMove, which seeks to simplify global logistics for entertainment gear. Visit GearSource.com today and expand your access to global markets for your gear and global gear for your markets. Hello, it's me again. Hello, isn't there a song like that? Hello, it's me again. I don't know. Seems familiar. So, I've had an eventful week. So last week, what did I do? I went to a huge event for a software company called Roam, which is a very cool platform that my company uses. It's a remote business platform where it really just bridges that gap between remote and in-person offices. You've got this physical office on your screen. You can see everyone's offices. You can see who's in, who's out. You can knock on someone's door and walk into their office and have a meeting. It's just more real time than booking Zoom calls with your staff or with your coworkers to meet later. Like instead, you just jump in and you're in the same office or you're in a conference room. Just a very, very cool software platform. It also incorporates something called Inbox, which is very much like Slack, I guess. We use it entirely for our communications globally. Just a very, very cool platform. Anyways, I was a very early user. My company, we were very early into that product. And they call us pioneers, and they invited me to a big launch event that they did in Miami last week, which was very cool. I mean, it was, I don't know, there was 300 and change people there. And I would say there was a half dozen billionaires in that crowd, probably 20 or 30, 40 people worth more than $100 million. Lots and lots of extremely successful entrepreneurs, really successful investors, venture capitalists, new founders, just really super interesting room full of people. I met the founder of Shutterstock. I met the founder of Slice, which is a pizza app that's gaining massive success right now. And, just really cool room of people. And they invited me there to speak. So I spoke in front of this crowd, which was a little nerve-wracking. But it was fun. Everyone's interested in live events, so they loved hearing some stories. So that was kind of cool. And then on Friday, I got to go out and have dinner with one of my favorite people in the whole world, John Wiseman. So it was John and his lovely wife, Tracy, who I'd never met. I knew his prior wife, not his first one, but his second one. I think I might have met his first one too. I don't remember. But But this was the first time I'd met Tracy, and she's just an amazing woman. You know, just really, really great people. We had a great time, and talked a lot about business, talked a lot about life too. And you know, of course, with Wiseman, it's never quiet, never dull. And we had a great dinner, just really, really fabulous night. And some of the business discussion just kind of focused around what's going on in the industry, what's his book of business look like, what's he hearing from other people. He's hearing a lot of similar things to what I'm hearing, that, you know, everyone's panicking over a Q1 potential slowdown. And I've talked to a lot of people who had a rough January, and they're like, oh my God, it's going to be terrible. I had some of those similar conversations last January, yet now I'm talking to people who are saying they had the best 2023, best year they've ever had. And so one thing I've learned in this crazy business climate that we're in right now, and I actually talked to another big industry leader this morning about this, you cannot look month by month at your numbers anymore. You have to look at quarters. And it's just the way the business is going right now. Like, especially in our industry, when one large deal can make or break your month, one or two large deals can make or break your month. And so you have to look at quarters. As hard as it is to have a bad month and then a really good one and then another bad one, you know, you have to look at quarters and hope that you're hitting your numbers for your quarters. And the other thing that happens, again, I had this conversation this morning, is then you avoid doing these things where you're doing something crazy, selling the farm for nothing in the middle of a month because you're panicking because January's soft. And now, oh my God, we got to burn the house down and do something. And instead, just trusting your numbers, trusting your systems, trusting your people, and recognizing that, you know, this isn't a month by month business anymore. It's a quarter by quarter business right now. So, you know, I don't know if that's brilliant or stupid, but for my business, I know it's probably brilliant. It keeps you from jumping off the bridge every third month. Instead, you're just doing it 4 times a year. So that made no sense at all. I'm sorry. What else did I want to talk about is ISC. I don't remember if I talked about that on a prior episode. Amazing show. All I've heard is incredible stories. I have to go to that show next year. I've never been to it, and everyone just keeps raving that it's just the most incredible show. Up next is Pro Light and Sound, which I have been to multiple times in Frankfurt. Massive show that is attached to something called Music Messe, which is like NAMM on steroids. It's just a massive, massive musical instrument show, like where, you know, I think it's in like 8 or 9 or 10 different halls. And like hall 1 might be drums and percussion. Hall 2 might be sound systems. Hall 3 might be guitars. Hall 4. So you're taking this bus all over the place, and you've got meetings, and you've got to take a bus between these different buildings to get to your meetings and stuff. It's crazy. It's a lot of walking, a lot of moving around for that show, because, you know, you're going to go from hall to hall depending on who you're meeting with and where. But it's fun, and it's huge, and it's pretty exciting. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, and if you don't know this one, you've just been sleeping. I'm telling you, it's probably the most important news that's come out in the last couple of weeks. Yes, of course, I'm talking about Lewis Hamilton going to Ferrari. So why is this big news? Well, Lewis Hamilton has won 6 championships, 6 world championships with Mercedes. And he has been with Mercedes a long, long time. He started his career with McLaren and then went to Mercedes quite early. And he's had a lot of success there. Everyone, myself included, probably believed that he was going to retire from Mercedes. But lo and behold, that sort of allure of going to Ferrari to finish your career, there's just this sex appeal for every driver. We've got to drive for the holy grail of racing, Ferrari. I've got to do at least 1 season, 2 seasons for Ferrari before I retire. And whether or not I agree with that, I don't know. Like, most of the time it doesn't work out very sexy, you know, and Sebastian Vettel, it wasn't that great. Alonso, it wasn't that great. I mean, there have been some that went to Ferrari and had great success at the end of their career, but for the most part, I think it's sort of more of a sexy story in your head than it is in reality, and it never really pans out. But one of the interesting things that I saw, and I don't remember the details of the article, but I read an article that basically said Hamilton's deal was worth something like 400 million euro, and he's only committed, I believe, to 2 seasons. 400 million euro, and that includes, uh, you know, the driver wages, but also some sponsorship stuff or whatever. But 400 million euro. And I just thought that this was just a ridiculous sum of money that could never be worth it. And then lo and behold, as soon as they announced it, Ferrari's stock went up by like $1 billion or something. So, this is the game that's being played. It's not, I'm going to pay you a reasonable wage for a reasonable job done. It's, hey, if you can change my stock price by 100 million, I'll pay you 50 million. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what to think about that, but I used to be a big Lewis Hamilton fan. I became sort of not a Lewis Hamilton fan when he just got on his soapbox and became a little bit annoying for a while. His fashion and his statements were more important than his driving for the past few years. And, go figure, his success hasn't been there recently. So I know that that's not due to the fact that he supported some interesting causes and stuff, but maybe the car just isn't right up to where it was when he was winning with it. But, I don't know. I kind of lost it on him. He lost me a little bit when I just like drivers that show up on the track, not drivers that show up in the social media and all that stuff. Like, I don't care about that stuff. I like guys like, Max Verstappen. The guy's a flashy guy and everything, but you don't see him showing up at the track wearing, funny outfits and stuff. He shows up in a racing suit, ready to race. It's all about the racing for him. It's not about the show. And so, yeah, anyways, thought we should talk about that. That's pretty important, Formula One. Anyways, pretty excited about today. I've always been a fan of this guy. So today's guest is Eric Wade. Eric, I'm going to read his bio right now. Pardon me. Eric is the principal designer and creative director at Crossfade Design. He got his start in the industry at the ripe old age of 14. His mom was a rock singer in the Dallas area, and he would help in the lighting and sound booth at her shows. By 16, he was working for a lighting company, building dimmers and consoles from scratch, and renting his own equipment to local bands. At 18, he was the LD for George Strait. That is wild. Today, Eric's robust portfolio includes live events at arenas, convention centers, cruise ships, and concert tours. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Eric Wade. Hi there, it's me again. And so I had a problem. We had a technical problem. We ended up losing about the first 15 or 20 minutes of today's conversation. And so I wanted to take just a minute and first of all, apologize for that, because Eric Wade is a brilliant guy, and it was just an incredible discussion of his early years specifically. And so for those of you who didn't know, Eric's mom was a rock and roll singer when he was 12 or 13 years old. I mean, she was for a number of years. And so he actually became her LD and sometimes sound person at 12 years old, and would go and do her gigs and would run lights and sometimes audio as well. And, this was his upbringing. It was one of the things he did. And then at around 16 years old, he went to work for a band who owned a club in Fort Worth and was doing their lighting at night, while during the day, he would go to school from like 8 in the morning until noon. And then at noon until 6, the school helped set him up with sort of a work for, schooling gig at a lighting company that was doing electronics for nightclubs. So they were doing dimmers and control systems for nightclubs. And so he was working in there, learning how to do soldering and how to put together these dimming systems and light control systems. And so he was doing 3 things every day, basically. He'd go to school from 8 till 12. From 12 until 6, Eric was working in this lighting factory, basically. He would go home, take a shower, change his clothes, and go to the nightclub at night and do lights until about 1 o'clock in the morning. And he did this every day for a while. And it was what he had to do. His mom was a single parent. He needed to help pay the bills. She was a rock and roll singer. She wasn't making a lot of money, even though she had some pretty cool gigs. He told me that she was doing, I believe she was singing with Stevie Ray Vaughan's band at one point, and she had a successful audition with Elvis in, I believe he said it was July of 1977. She actually got the gig as a backup singer for Elvis. And then, of course, he died in August of 77. So she never actually got to perform with him. But she did go to Memphis and do the audition and got the gig. And then, unfortunately, Elvis died. So Eric, built a lighting package. He went on to rent that lighting package to local bands in Dallas, and then eventually went to work for some people that I knew real well back then as well, Charles and Vicky Belcher, who had a company called Dallas Backup. And he was there, I believe, when he was like maybe 17 or 18 years old. Charles Belcher kind of played dad a little bit, helped educate him on how to do things properly. And Charles also gave Eric his first LD gig, which happened to be for George Strait. I mean, what a place to start. You're doing arenas with, a huge country act. But remember, this was back in the day when country wasn't 400 moving lights. It was 200 or 300 par cans. And so, it was 4 sticks of truss and a bunch of par cans. And so he did that for a couple of years, I believe. And then in '84, Eric went to Verilight, where he was a programmer and tech for Verilight. And this was back in the very early days of Verilight. He was working for Wiseman. And so you would get your own dressing room where you would repair the lights with the door closed and locked. And it was all very secret. It was in the early days of Verilight. Very sexy, very interesting. And I think his Verilight career ended with Michael Jackson Dangerous. And that was when he met Peter Morse and became close with Peter Morse. And the rest is history. He started doing all kinds of stuff with Peter Morse. And, they've been very close friends and very close work partners since that time, which I believe was in 1991. So very long, successful relationship between the two of them. And I asked Eric, do you consider yourself a designer or a programmer? And he said both. And then he went on to tell me about the 4 different businesses that he owns and operates. And so I said, aren't you an entrepreneur or a businessman? And he said, yeah, that too. And so, he said basically as a designer, he always has to do his own programming. Doesn't have to, but he often does his own programming. There have been tours where he's had to bring in outside people. He'll bring in Troy Ackerman or someone like that. And now his sons also work with him. I believe you might have heard that on part of what actually we were able to save from this podcast. But that is sort of the penultimate, when you can have your sons working for you as well, or working with you as well in the business. And they now go out and tour. One of them was with Luis Miguel, and the other one, I believe he said, is going out with Janet Jackson. So again, I apologize for what just happened. This has happened a total of 2 or 3 times in the history of this podcast. And this one, unfortunately, I was unable to salvage the first roughly 20 minutes of the recording. So I thought I'd go in there and just give you the sort of highlights, the 10,000 foot view of the stuff that you missed. And so there you go, and enjoy the rest of the podcast. And here you go. Here's Eric.
To do, but you're right. I mean, to me, the Super Bowl shows that, stand out. I mean, the very first one with Michael Jackson, that was right after we finished Dangerous that he did the first Super Bowl thing there,
Right.
And it was spectacular,
Yeah.
But, there's been some amazing ones. Paul McCartney's was, over the top. There's been some really good ones.
Yeah, Paul McCartney, I mean, I thought Bruno Mars recently was pretty good.
Yep.
Obviously, the Michael Jackson one was pretty good. Prince, I think, is the all time winner for me. Like In the Rain in Miami,
Oh yeah,
that was an
doing
incredible,
Purple Rain in the
incredible show.
rain.
It was amazing. That was so
Yeah.
good. And yeah, so I mean, there have been some really, really good ones. To me, this one was just like average. It was good, but it was, it wasn't one of
It's
the
I
best
think
ones.
it's just gotten to the point where it's almost impossible to outdo some of the other ones. They've gone so big with it and
Yeah,
hyped it so much. Our expectations now are so off the chart for that halftime show that
right.
what the public perceives and wants is you're going to have 10 times the budget they got and a lot more time. So
Yeah,
you know it's
absolutely.
uh, it's just what we expect, though. I mean, when you start, everybody wants bigger and bigger all the time. So you're
Yeah.
always going to be fighting that.
Yeah.
It's a tough show. I mean, that's going to
Yeah.
be a tough one. You're never going to make everybody happy.
No.
It's just the way it is. But
Yeah.
that's every show.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have something to say about a show.
So, I've always been curious, and I think I asked Troy Ackerman the same question, and I've asked a bunch of people the same question, but are you a designer or a programmer?
I like to think of myself as both.
Yeah.
For me, I've always been a programming designer,
Yeah.
so I can't really keep my hands off the console. I'm not that kind of person. Although I did on this last Janet Jackson design, I strictly just designed it, and I hired Troy to come in and associate with me, and we had the kids all program it. So, and
Huh.
it turned out amazing. So I these days I'm it's weird because I've kind of transitioned in my career now to being, like with Janet right now, I'm the tour manager, I'm the production designer, I'm doing everything, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm dealing with contracts even for her shows. So, I've kind of transitioned more into that role. And our company's kind of gone that direction as well. Crossfade is more of we're like a turnkey, design firm that, when you come to us with your tour and go, we got a budget. Can you just put this whole show together for us? That's what we do.
Yeah.
We'll take care of the budgets. We take care of hiring all the vendors. We take care of hiring all the staff. We take care of the design. We take care of everything pretty much, and I mean, down to like with Janet, I'm ordering buses and trucks, I'm doing everything.
Wow.
So
Was that
yeah,
was
so
that like always sort of a planned evolution, or is that something that just
it
as an
just kind of happened,
opportunist it
really.
just kind of happened? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just made sense, because these days it's I was telling somebody this earlier today. I did an interview earlier this morning, but I was telling them the kind of the same thing is, back when we were all really busy programming and doing all these shows back then, it was all about record sales. So we were doing tours to promote an album, so the artist never really had to make money on a tour. It was more about making a spectacle out of it
Yeah.
to sell
Yeah.
more records, right?
Hmm.
Now it's completely opposite of that.
Yeah.
Now it is they
This
go on
is
the
the
road to make
business.
money,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it is a business. And if your artist, and that's where we kind of have gone with what we're doing, is to make sure that whoever we're working for and the artist we're working for makes money, right?
Yeah.
So I take the budget and I go all the way down the budget and make sure that every night they're putting money in their pocket and taking it home, and that's the only way they're going to keep doing shows. I mean, who's going to do what we do and travel as much as we travel and be in the red after every show?
Yeah.
It's just, you can't do it. So that's kind of our philosophy now. It's more about working with an act, giving them something that they can be proud of, but also make money on.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because I asked you, are you a programmer or a designer? But it sounds like you're a business guy now. Like that sounds
Yeah, I
like
am.
the
I'm
bigger
pretty much
part of your
that's pretty
job.
much it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Your
because right
kids get
now
to go out and have all the fun.
yeah, they're
and
doing it all now.
yeah.
I mean, I let them handle it. But yeah, because we have right now, we basically have three different companies, or I've worked with three different companies that I'm a part of. And one of them is just a fabrication shop. It's just metal work. And all we do there is pretty much, we're mainly making truck bodies, like utility truck bodies. So it's nothing to do with the industry at all.
Huh.
But that business is, off and running. So I never thought I'd own a shop with laser cutters and press brakes and all that kind of stuff.
Why did that
Because I
happen?
knew nothing about. You know what? It happened mainly because Nemesis, the UVC company, because I started that just right before COVID, or right when we thought it was
Before
happening.
COVID.
Yeah, I mean, I started in 2019 when I started hearing about COVID and what could, and I went, holy crap, I know
Why
what
didn't
can
you
beat
tell
this,
any of
right?
us?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Why didn't
it
you
was
tell
out quite a
me?
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of business, and basically what I did is reinvented UVC lighting with that company. So because I had learned about it from Rick way back in when I first started in the clubs, because back then it was the HIV scare, right? So you had
Hmm.
all that going on. So they would put UVC in the bathrooms at these clubs overnight to disinfect the bathrooms and kill all the viruses and bacteria and all that stuff. I mean, you can run UVC in a club overnight and get rid of that horrible, beer smell and all the, the club
Yeah.
smell, because it disinfects. So I just kind of reinvented it, and we sold a ton of stuff during COVID. We were busy. We were
Yeah.
extremely busy, and Crossfade was busy. We went into the bubble with Top Rank. You know, we had boxing work going and sports work because we still took care of the hockey teams and basketball teams we take care of. So all that was still going. So, between the three companies now, I'm pretty slammed. So
Yeah.
it really
So
eats up a lot of time.
the UVC thing blows me away though, like that somehow you had this foresight or vision or whatever that that was going to be a thing. And, because I know people who got into the UVC business like at the end of 2020 or whatever, but you were already in it for that company. That's called Nemesis,
Oh yeah,
right?
no, Nemesis UVC is the company. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's how the metal fabrication shop came, because I couldn't find any shops that were really had people working or doing anything then, and everything was already backlogged. So one of my partners and me, John and I bought the equipment, and we got another guy involved, and all of a sudden now we got laser cutters showing up, and press brakes, and we to build all the lighting fixtures basically is what we started doing. So we
So
started building lighting fixtures right there.
is that still a thing? Like, did because I know how particularly Americans operate. It's like, whoa, we need to stop everything, and then it goes away, and all of a sudden it's like, what happened? What are you talking
Yeah,
about? I
yeah,
don't
but now,
remember
now
COVID.
nobody really cares anymore. Now, yeah, it's.
Yeah,
I mean, we're still in. It's still running and it's still doing it, but it's very slow.
yeah,
We still have some Indian nation work. The Indian nations are still buying stuff,
yeah,
and we're building here and there. We got some air cleaners and things like that we do, but it's pretty much that's hence why the machine shop now, the fabrication shop, is doing truck beds, because the lighting market for UVC
right.
is falling off
You
since
pivoted.
everybody doesn't really care anymore. No, we're gonna
Yeah.
get sick, whatever.
No, that's how the world
And I had a
operates, isn't
good
it?
friend involved.
Short
Yeah, I had
memories.
I don't know if you knew Joe. He used to work for Elation. He was involved with us,
Oh
and
yeah,
Joe Adams.
yeah, yeah.
So Joe Adams was one of the original guys in with us with UVC, and we got it going. And
Ugh.
he was the one that pushed it to the Indian Nations. And him and I got COVID together at the same time. When we went to, I
No,
don't know whether he got it from somebody or how we got it, but him, me, and my wife, all three got it within 24 hours of each other.
and he
And
passed.
Joe passed, yeah, 7 days in, he died. He had a pulmonary embolism from it and passed
Wow.
away. It was horrible, young guy,
Yeah, yeah. No,
and so that was a
yeah, I
tough
remember when
period.
that went down. Yeah. I didn't
Yeah,
realize
it
he
was
was your
really tough.
partner.
Yeah, he was one of our partners in that.
Huh. Yeah. I, I still don't know to this day. I don't know that anyone really knows, but why did, like, because I got it probably 3 times or 4 times. I think I got COVID. And every time it was no worse than any other flu, and sometimes not even as bad as colds that I'd get. And to be honest,
Right.
since 2020, if I look at all the times I've been sick since 2020, it's less than probably the 4 years prior to that, because it pretty much got rid of the flu and a lot of the colds and stuff for a long time. But
Yeah.
I,
No,
I've,
it did.
knocking on my wooden head, I never got really, really sick. Like I think one of the times I got it, I had to spend a day in bed. But other than that, I just kind of got on with my days, and I work
Yeah,
remotely
whatever
anyway.
we
So
got that week, that my wife calls it, we had OG COVID. So
yeah, Yeah.
But it was brutal. I mean, it was watching your O2 levels and all that stuff, and then the
Yeah.
brain fog, and all that garbage. She lost her taste and smell for almost a year.
Yeah, my girl. Oh,
So
for a year. Yeah, because I
almost a
never even
year.
lost. Every time I got it, I never lost taste or smell, and my girlfriend did. Uh, again, why certain people, different
It
effects,
just
and all of
affects.
that stuff. It's
Yeah, I
just
mean,
your
well,
biology,
just
I
like
guess.
The Indian communities, they're still just getting beat up with it.
Yeah.
It's really rampant. So
Hmm. I don't know.
yeah,
It's
who
it's
knows?
I like, and it's unfortunately when you're like me and you didn't get very sick from it, it's easy to downplay it, but then you got to be careful because you talk to people and they say, yeah, but my father died from it or whatever, and
Yeah,
it's like,
and I can't downplay it. I mean, I
yeah,
lost a very dear friend that get it the same week as me and passed away
yeah,
from it. So I you got to take it serious after that. I
yeah,
mean, it wrecked his family's life. It's just
yeah. Yeah, no, that's
it
terrible.
was not a good moment.
That was one of the more sad ones that I remember. There was a
Yeah.
friend of mine here in South Florida who was that obnoxious guy that was like on Facebook all the time going, "This is bullshit. This COVID thing's bullshit. It ain't even real. It's the government." Yeah, rah, rah. Just ragging on everybody. And of course, the
Yep.
minute they opened strip clubs, he'd be like, "Hey, I'm going to Rachel's today. Who wants to meet me? We're all going to Rachel's. F COVID and all this stuff, right?" And
Yeah.
he was the first person I knew who died.
Yeah.
He,
Got it. Yep.
well, I mean, but he was such an asshole about it, and I hate to say that, God rest his soul, but uh, that he refused to go to the doctor. He got it, and he wasn't going to take any medicine, and he wouldn't go to the doctor. Lived by
Still didn't think
himself.
it was real. Yeah. There's a lot of people that
Yeah,
were that way.
lived
I
alone,
mean, and I
and
ran into a lot of
they
them
found him dead.
running Nemesis. We ran into that a lot. People are like, "You guys are, you're selling witchcraft. It's a, we're one of those, door to door
Yeah,
guys or whatever.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
you're trying to sell voodoo. It's not. It's a proven science. It's been used.
yeah,
I mean, it wasn't anything new. UVC was patented in the 1950s, and it's been used in hospitals ever since.
yeah.
So it's not, it's proven.
The
It absolutely works.
the thing about UVC though, it's so dangerous. It's so like
It
and
can be. It depends on the exposure. I mean, we're making the lights, and it's funny because Stacy LaBarbera was involved with that with me as well, and his boys, and we were exposed around it all the time. We just wear something on your eyes. The most you could get. I mean, you'd have to be in it for a long time. I mean, we'd be in there doing tests with it, and you get a sunburn sometimes on your neck or something like that. It's it.
well, I was
Some
talking
people
to
think
one
you're going to
guy.
walk in there and you're just going to die. You're not going to.
Yeah.
It's
I was talking to somebody in LA about it, and they had done like an XR studio or something with UVC. And he said after like a week or something, they were starting to see like the outside of cables were getting brittle and cracking, and the flooring that they had in there was getting all messed up from the UVC or whatever.
so they were probably overexposing
I'm
things. I
sure they
mean,
were like,
you don't just turn it on and leave it forever. I
yeah,
mean, we did all the. I had all the science, so it's really the exposure times are. I mean, it's ridiculous. We actually did our labs at a lab down in Austin.
yeah,
And we actually the longest thing we had to run to kill, which I mean even other things was MRSA and staph, right?
mm.
So and that took about 15 minutes with our fixture from 8 feet away. So
Oh
to
wow,
completely wipe out MRSA and staph, they did the test on COVID. It was about 8.5 seconds. So
damn,
you didn't need a long exposure with any of this stuff. You
yeah,
could run a crowd out, turn on the lights, and let them run for 5 to 10 minutes tops, and then
yeah.
turn it off, and you were good to go. So what I found a lot of people doing, and because people were just buying anything they could buy at the time, but they would just turn it on and leave it on. They'd leave and go overnight and just let it run all night long. Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah,
absolutely.
if 10
It's
minutes
like
is
leaving
good,
something outside in the backyard in the the summer in Texas.
right, but they're
It's the
thinking if
same
10
thing. You're
minutes is
just putting
good,
UV rays into something.
10 hours
Yeah.
must be better,
So
right?
yeah, and the thing you'll look at now, I mean, like all your paints and everything anymore is got UV protection in it because they want it to last out in the sun.
Yeah.
So your paints, your materials, most everything's got UV protection in it. But
Yeah.
when you're putting UV light directly on something, it's like leaving it out in uh, overnight can be like, leaving something in the sun for a month.
Yeah. So let me ask you a couple gear questions, and I'm going to let you go because I know happy hour is coming up or something. Um, so console, your MA.
Yeah, we're MA. We own quite a few. We got quite a few full size, some lights. We got compacts. We got the PC wings, all that stuff. We are all MA house now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Yeah, I was Maxes and going down that line, and I still love all the stuff that they've done with Onyx, and all the stuff that Elation's done with that
Yeah. The
console.
Obsidian consoles.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, the Obsidian stuff is great. But we're so deep into Ma, it's just what we are now.
Yeah.
And that is the majority of my rentals too. I mean, my consoles are probably the busiest thing I have.
Yeah. So you have a rental company as well, in addition to
Oh,
all the other stuff
we own
in your
we own
spare
more gear
time.
than I ever thought I'd own. Yeah, no, Crossfade. We own. We've got Mega Points, JDCs. We got all kinds of stuff. Motors, truss. Yeah, I never thought I'd be in the equipment rental business, but here I am. So
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, you know the people.
that and the
and
our previz suites. We've invested heavily into our previz suites, and we really started out just wanting to be a control company, more media servers, control, previs, design work, building 3D models, that kind of stuff. But as time grew on, we got clients that like Top Rank. We bought the lighting system for it because it just wasn't beneficial to rent it. So we bought everything, and it
Interesting.
stays out all the time. So
Yeah. What about favorite fixtures? Any favorite fixtures right now that you're really in love with all the new stuff?
There's some new ones, and I'm going to put a few of them on Janet on this next run.
Yeah.
Chauvet's they've got a new fixture out. It's the Pixel Curve. It's a Colorado Pixel Curve.
Yeah.
Really, I've got one at the shop right now. Brad Haynes sent me. I really like it. I was in love with the Clay Packy one there for a bit, but this one is kind of it on steroids, So
Yeah.
it was, as it always turns out, somebody will try to outdo them. But
Yeah. Yeah.
that one to me right now is a really great fixture. But one that really impressed me the other day is I had Brad come up and bring me a Mac 1 from Martin.
Yeah.
So they got this new Mac 1. It's a really great little small
That thing
light.
is cool. Yeah, that thing is
It is
cool.
very cool.
Well, and just the way they've packaged it with the bar of 4 and you can wall mount it, you can hang it, you can do all this different stuff with it.
Put them in pods, and it's lightweight and the whole thing.
The size
And
and
it's
the
bright.
form
It's
factor.
real bright.
Yeah. No, that fixture, as much, I talked to other lighting manufacturers about it, and they're like, it's no big deal. That's no big deal. It's not bright enough. It's not small enough. It's not this enough. But I just keep saying they're going to sell 1 billion of those things. Like
They're going to
so
sell.
many.
They're going to sell tons of those.
And
things.
it's cheap
because we've been dying for something there. I mean, my go-to for the small format's always been the X4S from GLP.
Yeah, yeah.
Great little small light. I mean, on Usher, as a matter of fact, it's the picture I see in your background there. I had a wall on that of 248 of the X4Ss.
Wow.
So, and they were impressive. They look incredible. But that light's old now. It's been around.
Yeah.
I'm surprised GLP hasn't reinvented that one. I mean, I see that coming. I think they should, because it was always a great light. But the Mac 1 is kind of what's happened there. They've kind of reinvented it, and it's a neat little light.
Yeah, I think they hit that one out of the park. I mean, that is just, they're going to, again, the price point too. Like it's, dealer, I think,
it's way affordable.
under $2,000, it's.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, dealer on it can't. I don't think it's more than about $1,500 or something.
I know, it's insane.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I haven't got a quote yet, but
yeah,
it's.
I do, but I'm just not saying. I'm being slippery.
Yeah.
But no, I mean,
I need to get a quote. Actually, you just
Yeah.
reminded me. I got to email and get a quote, because I need to. I'm probably just going to buy the ones for Janet instead of PRG buying them. But
yeah, I just think that's going to be a light that people, they don't say, send me 12. They're going to say, send me, 250.
Yeah, that's it.
It's just going to be something with lots, because it's got so many applications. I mean, 8
It's
lights
got
for
the eye
a trade
candy.
show
It's got all
booth or
that stuff.
something, like
Yeah.
just everything about it. It's so simple, so straightforward. Maybe the only thing they could have done that would have made it even cooler is make it, battery and wireless so that you could just take,
Yeah, that'd be
four
it.
under
If it
your
was
arms
that,
to a
it
trade
would
show.
absolutely be perfect. Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
would be
Well,
it.
maybe it's coming. The
Yeah,
Mac 1B will be battery,
yeah,
the
battery
Tesla
and
version.
wireless.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know you're on vacation, and I appreciate you doing this for me. We were going to originally do it last week, and you got real busy, and
Yeah, it's that's what's happening right now. All of a sudden, you're like, you get all this stuff. You think you got this time, and then all of a sudden you're slammed. I mean, I've got a corporate show that just came out of nowhere that we're doing right now in Dallas,
wow.
and that was what we were trying to get out the door. And and it was the last minute. Joel Young sent the guy my way, and just I hadn't heard from Joel in many years,
Yeah, I haven't
and
spoken with
it was
Joel in
kind of
forever.
nice.
What's he doing?
He's this corporate gig, and other than that, he's working in the medical industry now. He's like he's in medicine. He's doing
Really?
plasma or something. Yeah, so him and his partner or husband, I guess Ty is. I think they're married now,
Yeah.
but him and Ty both are out of the business now. I guess for the most part,
Huh.
except Joel does this one corporate client, and that's it.
I had no. It's funny. I was thinking about him a couple weeks ago. I wonder whatever happened to Joel, and
I
so yeah,
know.
it's funny you're saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how many people. That's probably the biggest problem we got right now is how many people left after COVID.
Yeah.
God, it's hard to find people right now. I mean, finding good people right now is, I mean, that's the hardest thing we have to deal with right now,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
staffing and crewing, and it's because one thing I can say is it did help. It helped some because there were some people that just didn't really need to be in the business, but but then there's some that that were well more qualified and needing to make more money, and now they can. They're
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
people are getting what they deserve in this industry right now, I think, and it's I mean, for what we do, they should be paid for it.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how long this lasts, because I know all the larger companies anyways are pushing really hard on the education thing, trying to bring new young people into the industry.
Right.
Um, you've got a lot of even designers and stuff. Like I know Sooner has been involved in really trying to beat the drum of, hey, this is a real gig. It's not a gypsy job or whatever.
Yeah,
You
right.
you can
It's a
make
real
real
profession.
money. Yeah, you can make real money doing this and travel the world and see cool stuff and do cool things. Um, so they're out there doing marketing basically on the business, which is important. But
Right.
because obviously you're
Well,
going to need
and
to
we're
recruit from.
working on something right now. We're hoping it kicks off, but we're real close to it. We're talking. We're real close to opening up some rehearsal studios right outside of Dallas with Forney School District,
Oh
and
wow,
starting an education program for our industry at the same time. So that's kind of our next big venture we're working on right now.
good for you.
So we would have 4 sound stages out there, education division that takes care of start teaching lighting guys and sound guys and all that good stuff. Start introducing the kids to a different industry that they normally wouldn't have access to.
Yeah.
And that school district's really interesting. They have a place called the OC, and that is the high school. So it's more of a vocational high school. You can you can walk in there as a freshman in high school and go, I really want to be a car mechanic. That's what I want to do. Well, they have an automotive shop. You and work on cars. You're 4 years in high school and learn how to work on cars.
How logical.
They've got yeah, I know,
A
right?
curriculum that actually works.
Yeah,
Wow.
beauty shops, catering company, restaurants. They got all this stuff in this OC. It's really cool. It's a really neat concept. They were definitely thinking outside the box when they did it, and I mean, from learning to weld to they even have podcast studios,
Hmm.
where the kids can go in and do podcasts and do broadcast stuff. They put in a theater and an arena, and now we're talking about partnering with them and building these sound stages and opening up basically an entertainment side.
Who funded it?
The city funded the initial project, what it is now, and now it's more. They're bringing on partners, kind of like us with this. They brought in Eddie Dean. He's a big barbecue guy in Texas. Brought him in with all the restaurants and the catering companies. they've brought on Randy Klein, who does like Texas style wrestling, and so they're doing that out there now, and they're doing TV broadcasts with Texas style wrestling,
Hmm.
and so it's more about bringing in partners now to develop it. Like there's a automotive company that started with them with the automotive shop, so they work with real mechanics and work on real cars. It's a real neat concept, so kids don't have to just go, yeah, I've got to go 4 years of school and I'll figure out what I'm going to do there. They
Yeah.
can actually go, hey, this is really, they can be around it and exposed and go, well, I would really like to do that. Welding might be my thing. So
That just makes way too
you
much
know
sense, you know?
so yeah, it's a real neat concept. And I think we're real close to getting it off the ground. It's Crossroads Collective is the name of the studios. We've already incorporated, and it's all running. And now the next thing is just breaking ground.
It's amazing. During during COVID or just before COVID, this industry, we were so short on rehearsal space, and now the new ones, what's it called, Elevation in Nashville and
Yep.
Gateway, and like there's all
And it's
these.
still not enough. There's
Yeah.
still not enough. I mean, it's
Yeah, you're
just
right.
it's so. I mean, I've been, because I have to find the buildings for Janet to rehearse in, and Harold's been working on finding a place for Lionel to go, and finding buildings or anywhere to rehearse these days it's hard. You can't find anything. I mean,
Yeah.
oh, the arenas everywhere we go. I mean, we're going to end up doing Janet rehearsals. It looks like in Fresno, and we found an arena there that wasn't busy. So it's that is really the area where we need help right now, is sound
Huh.
stages and rehearsal spaces. There's just not enough of it.
That's crazy. Well, you enjoy Park City. You enjoy your happy hour, and
Absolutely.
I appreciate you taking some time
Mardi
out.
Gras time.
All right, man.
Go put on
You
my
have
beads
fun.
next. All right, man.
Have fun. Thanks. Thanks, Eric. Good to see you.
All right. Good seeing you, man.